Hey Sven, Graham's in the house. Hey, peace, peace, peace. I hope you can hear me and see me. There's a little bit of delay on Zoom, so I hope you can see me. Let me know. I think so. Good, good, good. Okay. Okay. Graham's in the house. Let me turn that volume off. Peace, 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 peace. YouTube. I'm back again for another video. Hopefully it won't be as rushed. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. So check on in. I'll wait until we get to our handy dandy um 500 to start the conversation. How are you doing with the energies of the Scorpion full moon that is now waning, starting to go to recede? Everyone doing away? Hey Letitia. Hey Almost. Hey Sonia. Hey Lyran. Hey Lyran. Hey Lady Rebel. Lady Rebel's been with me a long time. You got to check out Lady Rebel. I love that. Remember that video? Can I play that video again? She makes this awesome video about being being abducted, but I play that for like, what did I play that in the ground for the longest time, right, Lady Rebel? Um, yes, I think we can start off by saying one of the sea stars who was I've known for many, many years. I've had her on my channel. Many people had her on their channel before. I don't think I spoke on it. I think definitely in Zoom, the Zombies, we've spoken about it. Arrest and Power to Renetta Jones. Many of you know I had her on my channel a few years ago. She's a friend to the channel. She just transcended about 2 weeks ago. Um, I don't think I don't know if I felt comfortable talking about it publicly because of the energies that surrounded her transcending. Many of you know as a whistleblower, as someone who's on talking about some of the things I talk about, and she kind of touches. She's more in the super soldier arena with James Rank. Many of you know like the bases. The super soldier sector, which is connected to like the UFO sector, which many of you know, it's a very, very piloted sector with a lot of governmental ties. And she did talk about having technology inside of her. She's Trinidadian. Many of you know she had a beautiful accent, beautiful woman, goddess. And I think that there was a lot of suspicion around her transcending, especially she said that she was being attacked energetically by the Willy Wonka. And unfortunately, she transitioned, and it's very sad. Um, so, send a lot of love and energy to her family, her mom. She was, she's very young still. But again, this is a real thing. And when you speak too much about certain topics, it puts you in the arena to be triangulated and attacked energetically and otherwise. So I feel like this might have been a testimony to what happens when you're unrelenting about your message, which she was, just brave, um, just she sent the message out and she did not, waver from her message. And, I feel like it targeted her. And again, they had technology inside of her. And if you get a chance, you can see her channel, but, send some love and some energy to her family. Um, it's really quite tragic when you lose a young loved one who's so young still. Um, and big up to her for doing the work, putting in the work and being unapologetic about it for so many years since she came out. So a big up to our C star who's already transcended, Renetta Jones. Okay, you can check out her channel. Just understand that this is real. Sometimes a lot of you come on here and you think that we just come on and speak, and there are people who are more legitimate than others, and she was one of them, and she had a very powerful message, and that may have been one of the reasons that her and other people, like I talk about Dr. Mumby was also attacked. It's very, very serious. So, you know, um, give some love and respect to the people who do take their words and their energy and their share with you very seriously. Okay, so some of the sisters will put her name in the chat. Um, and, you know, that's all I'll say about it. I know, there were some things I wasn't supposed to discuss, and I won't discuss here. But on Zoom, we kind of just don't care. We discuss everything. So, if you want more personal conversation about it, it won't be on YouTube because of how sensitive and how triggering it can be. Okay, especially from the sector she comes from, the super soldier sector, and her people already gave her a farewell in a video. So I don't really touch that sector too much because it's too much governmental infiltration. I don't trust that sector. I don't trust a lot of people in that sector because they are chipped. They're linked to governmental dark ops, DARPA agencies, and a lot of them are just, because they may be incepted with technology, or a lot of them are just, unstable. That's just my opinion. Um, Anyway, so check on in. Everyone will wait until we get to the 500 mark. We're going to talk about the government. Interesting enough, we're going to talk about the governmental grays and their harvesting. I've gotten wind and also some personal messages. It's really disconcerting. And I will say this while we're here early, we have a lot of stay-at-home mommies who listen to the channel, or they listen later with their little ones. On my videos. This is a video that I will give a pre-warning to moms, abuelas, grand aunts, um, big sisters, big brothers, aunts and uncles. Please, the little ones, this video is certainly, it shouldn't be a video that they're listening to. So when you do start this video, when I start the topic, I just ask that, as appropriate, you put their little earbuds on, or you put your earbuds on, and or send them to do some coloring, listen to some baby Einstein if they're a little older, send them in the room, give them a little task, because this conversation is very, very sensitive. And hey, Chan, peace, Chan. And I'm very, because, and I've talked about this before, because I'm a mommy, and I've had little ones. I'm very, very grateful to channels who take in consideration that there are people who have children who want to listen to the videos. Now we have all these headphones and fancy stuff, but I don't believe in putting these little earbuds in because they have so much radiation. So I generally won't tell you to put that on. I like to keep my channel really fresh, funky, but also very appropriate in language. But sometimes topics are very seedy, and the topic isn't appropriate for little people, and I wouldn't want to be responsible for messing with their peace of mind and with yours. So I always give you a heads up if this is a topic that goes too far. Okay, so if you have the little ones, please put them in the other room. We're going to talk about things that are very graphic, and it could be unhealthy for them to hear, as needed, as you feel necessary. Okay, so I just put that out there. um so come on in, check on it, everybody. I'll wait until we get to 500. I'm not going to look at the comments as much until I kind of want to talk about things, but we'll talk about everything. There's a lot going on. I hope everyone's feeling better. Usually during full moons, if you've known that the full moon is not my cup of tea. And I generally, unlike you cancers, I love that you cancerians, you guys get energized with the moon, right? So with you, the moon actually feels really good. You get a lot of energy, you feel good. So with me, it's a little different. So I always like to come on when the moon is kind of receding a little bit. I came on earlier when the moon was coming full, but the moon is an artificial construct. This is my opinion. You do not have to share it. The moon, what I know is that the moon is an artificial satellite. It's an artificial construct that controls the ebb and flow of our emotions, especially women. It was towed here and used here as a mind control satellite. It can project energies. It controls the flow of our waterways here in this hologram. So it doesn't make, when the moon is gone is when I feel my best, and some of you do. Okay. So, okay, so everybody, we're not to 500 yet. So wait, I know I don't give an announcement when I come on, y'all. So I like to come on impromptu. And someone said a comment about my hair. Let me explain something else. Whenever I'm living somewhere hot and tropical, I'm always like either swimming or so on. So I have what you call like beach hair. Someone said like my hair looks messy sometimes and so on. I don't really come on here looking impromptu. I just came with a bathing suit on actually, and I put a cover on so I don't offend anyone as much, right? I'm a busty babs. If that doesn't offend you, I'm a mommy. So most moms and women don't get offended. Only time very religious women can feel like I'm offensive. That has nothing to do with me. It has to do with them. But I come on usually like I have beach hair, salt hair. So I come on impromptu, like when I feel like a topic is necessary, and I don't really dial myself up. I don't feel like I have to. Sometimes I do, if I'm going somewhere, if I'm coming from out, but I hope you take me as I am. You know what I mean? There's no edits to my video. If I comb my hair, you should feel special. I mean, oh, my bun is good. My hair was like really funky in the front. My cousin told me that. It's just because I had parted my hair and then I put my hair back. So it looks like part of my hair in the front is like receding here and then part there. It's just because I had a part and I combed it back without combing it back even. But yeah. I just mentioned that because someone mentioned, oh, your hair looks different. I'm a girl, I'm a girly girl. And but I'm really just quite a naturalist too. I don't really, if I have to come on here and doll up y'all, you won't ever see me. If I have to actually, this is the most, you'll see me with lip gloss. I'm a big lip gloss person. Lip gloss, and if you get extra with me, you may get eyeliner. I'm from Generation X. So we don't really, I don't know, my generation is not really into makeup. You know, I think the newer generation, you guys are more into makeup because of your genre. I actually think you're reincarnations from the 30s and the 50s. I think I talked about this, y'all, right? I think that the millennials, the tail end of the millennials, and no, I actually think the millennials are more from the 30s and 50s, around the 30s and 50s. You know, when they used to wear the dolled up makeup, like, what is it called? It's like a genre. They wear the dolled up makeup. I noticed because they all feel like connected to it. I think a lot of the millennial, the tail end of the millennial, and maybe even Gen Z, they come from that. So they're big into like dolling up their hair, putting on a lot of makeup. I think they are because they do the eyelashes like of that time. Do you guys agree? I really think they're from that time. I used to make fun of it, but I really don't. Like, because I realize it's their genre. It's like how whenever a whole bunch of reincarnations come in and they come from a certain time frame, they generally have the same kind of propensities like dress. They like to dress a certain way. I think they are. Pinups. Thank you, pinups. I think they are. Do you ever see? They're very pretty. I used to criticize them, but I don't anymore because I think it's the time they came from. It's really pretty though. It's not. I don't want to make it seem. Before I'd be like, why are they putting all this makeup? I think it's just them. You know what I mean? They like to do all that stuff. So I can appreciate it. It's like art. I don't really get into it anymore. If they want to doll themselves up like that, look like pinup dolls, I think it's just a time frame. I used to think a certain way, but I don't. Yeah, some of it looks a little interesting, but in Generation X, we were kind of like, I don't know, we're just a little different. Okay, so we're almost to 500. Okay, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I come as I was. So I just say this to you because I think people had asked about um my hair and stuff. I don't really put stuff in my hair. I remember somebody said, "Oh, are you perming your hair? Are you having weaves?" Hey, listen. Like I said, if I have to do all that, you won't see me. I'm. It's not. I call it lazy, but I'm just. I don't. I put a lot of effort in other things I do. That's just not one of them. Okay. All right, so we're almost to the time frame. I hate to wait this long, but I know when people check in and they don't have to ask like what the topic is. It's just out of consideration. And there was a couple of YouTubers who had me like I used to watch, and I love that they did that. They waited a certain period of time for people. It's like coming and having people sit in a room. Like they'll come in, when you go to theater and you don't want to start the movie right away, right? You kind of want to walk in the theater and say, oh, okay, let's wait until everybody sits down, gets relaxed, and kind of has a conversation. So I think that's kind of like I like that. I do. Hey, Delmache. And I wasn't with the Zombies last night. Zombies, I was exhausted last night. I was out and about all day, in and out, and I was so tired. And I like to be on the Zombies. I like to be on Zoom for the good 48 hours. I try to stay on Zoom as long as I can. So the Zombies will be on tonight. For those who are on Zoom, will be on tonight. And I like it because it's the weekend. So those who have, regular gigs, they get to stay up late with us because sometimes they gotta go to bed because we're on too late. So big up to the Zombies. Will be on tonight. What time? Your time? 7 o'clock my time, 9 o'clock your time, right? All right. You got your popcorn? Okay. Don't worry, Earth Angel. You come back like, you come back when you can. Everybody comes in and out. Okay, we're almost to 500. We're almost to the 500 mark. I'm waiting for everybody to come in because this is going to be, and again, for those, again, just a FYI, this conversation isn't for little people. I'm going to repeat, it isn't for little people. So if you have little ones in here, put the earbuds on, put them in the other room, give them a coloring book, what Baby Einstein. We're going to get into some really piloted conversations, and I'd like to give you the FY, the preamp, like a little warning, okay? So put them in the other room if you can. You must have gotten my telepathic message about Zoom Friday. Did you really? Damashi, did you really? Were you tired too? I was exhausted. I was running in and out of the house, in and out of the house. Oh, thank you, VDH. I was running in and out of the house and I was so tired. I was like, there's no way I could be on Zoom. I would be snoring. The Zoomies know, like when I fall asleep on Zoom, like I'd be snoring, I fall asleep. Oh my God, it'd be so funny. They'd be like, we know you fell, and I don't even know. Okay, so are we ready? We got 5 more to 500, y'all. Check on in. Hey, Sven. Thank you, Sven Gams. Check out Sven Gams' channel. He's really a sweetheart. He's a friend to the channel. I adore you. Thank you for so much for making videos and connecting people to the truth in so many ways. Thank you again. All right. So I think, oh, we're at 500. Let's get in it. Checking in peace, YouTube, peace to the east, west, north, and south. This is Flipper coming to you today with a very interesting topic of discussion. So check on in. So we're going to talk about the governmental grays, Moloch, Molochs. And there is a big deal that I want to talk about that's happening in Philadelphia, and it's happening all over. But we're going to really focus on some intel that I got and intel that's being slowly leaked out into the algorithm about what's going on in Philadelphia. Big up to all our Philly family. I love Philly. As you know, I'm such a geek, right? Like I look at myself as such a geek. Like my mom, when she came, she was in New York for a long time, but her first stint was in Philadelphia with my aunts. And so when they came to America, I sound so crazy, right? When they came to America, and I shouldn't say America, when they came to US, because Americas is the whole of the a continent, right? When they came to the US, their first stint was in Philadelphia. I have such beautiful connections to Philadelphia because of that. Many of you know, like with my little ones, like I would take them to the Philadelphia Zoo. If you've not visited Philadelphia, it's been linked to being the city of brotherly love. I love Philadelphia. And I have such beautiful connections to it. Like I said, with my family, even though they moved to New York later, there's such a beautiful connection energetically to Philadelphia for that reason. And when you go to Philadelphia, y'all, like you'll understand what I mean. Like if you ever visit Philly, oh my God, like I sound like such a geek. I hate that I sound so geeky because I sound geeky to myself, but I go to Philadelphia and like I loved being closer when I lived in Pennsylvania, but it's the energy is so beautiful. And I understand why they're doing what they're doing there. It's to harvest the energy and try to redirect it and to muddy it up. So we're going to get into the governmental grays, the contract that they were recontracted, and we're going to talk about what's going on in Philadelphia right now, which is literally coming really touching and targeting the rest of the country and worldwide. But we're going to talk specifically about Philadelphia. So Philadelphia and late, there's been some news about several different body parts. And again, for those coming in freshly, please put the little ones. Can you guys warn anyone when they come in the room just to put their little ones out of the room because they may just check in, and I don't want them to be shocked at the topic because I'm concerned about the little ones coming in and listening to this. I know most people, if they're homeschooling, they'll put the children if they're a little older outside, but the little ones, I'm just concerned. So if anyone in the chat, can you just kind of give people a FYI as I talk about keeping the little ones out of the room? It's really big for me. This is really a disturbing conversation. So anyway, Philadelphia and late, there's been a lot of accounts of body parts, torsos, legs, and body parts being found. A couple of arrests were made of people found with trucks driving torsos, legs, like dismantled body parts in Philadelphia, and also and a couple of the food places, in the back of a couple of the food places, I think one was, um, what's that? Oh gosh. Uh, I think Arby's was one. Um, what's the other one? Oh God, I should have written it down. A few food places were found with having trucks in the back of body parts of people that were dismembered. And I want to go back to the contracts that were made many, many years ago with our Willy Wonka governmental system, which they made. Which they made with the Greys at the time. Now, many of you realize I've talked about the Greys over the years. We have to kind of talk about some of the things. I'm going to connect the dots, y'all. I'm going to go back to Philly, y'all. I got to go back into the archives to bring you up to speed to what the contracts were made with governmental officials and with these interdimensional Greys that had made a contract with uh, Roosevelt at the time, and this contract was made purposefully and to give technology in exchange for harvesting and being able to abduct people and animals. It wasn't livestock as well. They were they in exchange for having a certain amount of people that were abductable. And it was governmentally made with specifically with the US. So this is why you won't see as many stories specifically about this type of abduction and dismemberment as much as anywhere else, because this was specifically designated for the United States. Okay, that's why in other countries you don't see this. Now they probably made their own agreements. I'm not privy to all of them, but specifically in the United States, their population, if you are with a social security number, and you are, that's why also with the immigrants that Biden, the pooping president that is no longer seen anymore, I think they put him under, I don't know if they, I don't know, the masks were taken off. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's pooping still all over the place. I don't know. Okay. Um, but the president of previous to your so-called President Trump, he had made an agreement to allow all of these immigrants to come in. And I thought it was very interesting that he also gave them licenses and paperwork. And why that's important, because with this agreement that was made with Roosevelt, it was probably designated that it had to be specifically US citizens, that they were allowed to do these experiments and abductions, and also body abductions, harvesting of organs. Okay, so because of this, there was that contract that was made. I personally think he was allowed more technology, maybe even reprieve from the pole shift. Maybe they were allowed to enter into another Stargate, to leave when reset happens, what have you. But there was a contract made, and all of these immigrants that were allowed to come in from 2020 on to 2024, um, uh, into 2025, but really to the tail end of 2024, we're under the guise of probably giving technology specifically to that group of governmental people in exchange for body parts. Okay. I think, there's other governments probably connected to it, but that's all I can speak about because that's more of what I know. I believe now we are under a different contractual agreement which was recontracted with the new president. And that could be why they are bringing in the South Africans, for a specific group that they may want to experiment as well. So I would give a warning to the Africanos that are being brought here in the droves, because I think the Greys specifically want certain types of people for harvesting or doing experimental hybrid programming. And this could be why the Africanos are the ones that are being brought in right now, as a new group that they're going to use for experiments and harvesting. And they'll probably put a whole false flag about around them, saying that people are targeting them and they're disappearing. If that happens, y'all, don't believe the hype. Whoa, don't believe the hype. Don't you dare believe anything that they tell and spin to us, because while they're telling you that they're going to be targeted or something's going to happen to them, believe me, the fact that, because I just have a long-winded mind, a clinician's mind, and I see things happening very much in a cylindrical pattern. Whenever they want certain groups of people, believe me, it's because they want a certain genetic group. And with that group specifically, they were self-isolatory for many years. So I think many of you know in 1913, many Canadians, people from Norway, Denmark, Germany, Namibia had more Germans. German was also, was a colony of Germany. They migrated there and they started to do the self-isolatory thing. That's where the apartheid comes in, specifically. But they have a very pure bloodline, meaning they haven't mixed with a lot of different groups. With a lot of the hybrid programs or a lot of the even with harvesting, they generally will specifically target a specific group genetically for whatever reason. And they like when certain people don't mix because they get a concentrated amount of that DNA, that genetic group, and it allows them to work on certain types of maybe member, because the grays of the future. Now, okay, we're going to talk about this because I know I'm going all over the place. Are you guys with me a little bit? The grays that I'm talking about now, those of you who aren't from this UFO and ET sector, I'm building you up to give you a little bit of background because some of you aren't aware of the things that have to do with grays. Many of you think the grays are aliens from another galaxy, but I'm here to tell you the majority of grays that have made the contractual agreements are from the future. They came from an interdimensional portal, came in. That's how the Germans were able to get technology. Remember the technology, the Bell technology, the time traveling technology, that came from the Greys, okay, and tall white aliens also, which are another group of interdimensionals that came into the field. And whenever they come in, they contact specific governmental governmental officials in order to make agreements. And usually agreements are to par. It is, sorry, y'all, it is in exchange for technology. They have to give something, and usually all they have to offer are their people, because once you're under the governmental umbrella, they feel like there is their right to be able to barter people, individuals, bodies in exchange for certain technology. Okay, so with the Germans having do you remember all the technology that the Germans got? And many of you don't realize that in World War II, um, and I think many of you hear this because even with the technology where they found the bell that was sent from Germany from the 1940s and was found in the 1980s, if I'm not mistaken, in Philadelphia, that technology was technology given to the Germans through the tall whites. Okay, so they've been using their technology that these interdimensionals, not extraterrestrials, we used to think they were extraterrestrials, they are most likely all interdimensionals. With the Greys specifically, the Molochs that are being worshipped by all of these Jesuits, Masons, 33 degree Scottish Rite Masons that worship the Moloch, that is a type of insectoid gray that they worship. Okay, the same gray that made same gray groups that made contractual agreements with Roosevelt and Eisenhower and Roosevelt. I know many people were trying to correct me. No, both of them made agreements with the Greys. Okay, so both of them. Was it the 1960s the bell was found? Temple, can you find out, was the bell found in 1960s? Temple said it was 1960s. Can you guys let me know when the bell was found? The German bell that time traveled through a different timeline? If someone can find out. I can't look right now when we're on. So these grays that, if you look at the big meeting that the Masons go to, the Illuminazis, remember the words and connective words that they use. Illuminazis, the meeting they have in the Grove in California. What is it called? Something Grove. The something Grove that they meet up, they have this huge Moloch creature, and it looks like what does it look like? An owl? Okay. What is it? Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove. They meet up in Bohemian Grove where oh, sorry, y'all. I'm wearing a bathing suit. I'm not naked. I throw on a little thing to cover me so you don't see all the tetas. Okay. Um, Bohemian Grove. That Bohemian Grove where they meet up, they have a big statue of what you see is like an owl. Now, if you remember, I always reference the movie and you can always go back and kind of look through to kind of give yourself an idea of what I'm talking about. If you watch the movie Fourth Kind, in the movie Fourth Kind, there was a creature that they always saw in the window before they were abducted. What was the creature? Can you guys tell me what was in the window? Let's see if any of you saw Fourth Kind. Do 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 do. Let's see what you if any of you saw Fourth Kind. What did they see in the window? Zombies don't answer this because you guys already know. What in that movie, what did they always witness in the window before they were abducted? Let's see. Uh, okay. I see you watched it. Oh, there we go. Very good. Chris, Jamoji, Intune, Lamont, everybody got it. Earth Angel. Okay, you guys all got it. Okay, they saw an owl, a white owl. Okay. In what you don't realize, a lot of times with the extraterrestrials and deer, sometimes you'll see, in order or interdimensionals, what they have the ability to do is to perceptually change, like to change your perception of how they're received by your synopsis. So when you're looking at a gray, they have the ability to change the visual look. Now we talk about shapeshifters, things that visually shapeshift. This is a form of shapeshifting, but in order to do this, they actually change your perceptual reception, your how you receive them perceptually. Okay, so that's why in the movie, anytime they had abduction, it was grace. Now, why you have to realize at the time, they specifically were abducting only lunars. Now, let me state this, y'all. At the time with the contractual agreements, the agreement was initially made with lunars. And why this is my connection. This is how I found, I kind of put the bits of the puzzle together, pieces of the puzzle, is that those grays that came and made that agreement with Roosevelt and Eisenhower, they were future beings in a post-apocalyptic time that were able to use a stargate or a portal to come back into a past in order to fix themselves because they lost their physical biological dexterity, the way that their body was distorted. Now, there's movies that reference if you're exposed to a hyper amount of radiation, especially people who are very fair skinned, you don't have the protective melanin to be able to handle the gamma radiation and the height amount of radiation that comes with a lot of this technology, and especially what happens during reset. There's this huge amount of radiation, radionic frequencies that messes and disturbs and basically breaks down the DNA. And that's what the future grays were a result from. And there's another timeline in the future where these people that looked like regular humans distorted, lost all their hair, their head became bulbous, and they literally started to lose their genetic dexterity. And this is why they came back to the past to try to fix themselves. Now you can see remnants of this movie, which is of this what this is. If you go to a movie which I told you to watch recently, which is War of the Worlds, not the old one, the new one tells you exactly what they do. And you know what's crazy? I told you guys for years that these grays were broken down humans from the future coming back to harvest humans to fix themselves. But you know what movie definitely referenced? And I'm so shocked. You know, I was so shocked how brazen they were to pull out a movie and make a new version of War of the Worlds to tell you really it's them. Go look at that movie because in that movie, in that show, it's not really a movie, it's a show. I told you guys to watch. It was so good, so good because it references exactly what I'm talking about. These humans, Adam and Eve, that's what they call them. They go in the future, but because they had these genetic abnormalities, they birthed a whole bunch of people that were sickly, that had a lot of genetic issues. So then they come back from the future and come back to Earth in order to harvest people to fix their genetic abnormalities. God darn it, God, yo, they are so freaking brazen. Listen, I was so shocked. I was so shocked. I was so like I was so shocked that they would do this. Hold on. Not the Tom Cruise one. You got to go to the new one. There's a new one. It's a series. I had some of you watch it. What was it like? 7 months ago. Who watched it? It was so good. It's a series. It's not a movie. It's not the movie. It's a series. Is it War of the Worlds? It was, or is it no, it's War of the Worlds. It's the new series. It was like on Showtime. Was it on Showtime? You guys watched it. I think I told you guys, yeah, the series. So good. That is who the Greys are, y'all. They didn't show you that. They just showed you humans coming back and they were harvesting people. Okay. They came through a portal. It's one of the best shows speaking to that. So the Greys now that came through initially, they made the ones who made the agreement that Moloch, the so called Moloch, is the leader. It was a big official that's from the future. That's a gray that was a human that lost their human dexterity. So they came back in time and they had to take human lunars. That's why all the abduction stories you were hearing about were lunars. They were abducted lunars for their first initial 40 years. Okay. And later on, they found that lunars did not have the ability to be able to offset radiation or to fix the DNA. So, what they decided to do, and they needed to do with the new contractual agreements with Moloch, the Greys, which are just future humans trying to fix their genetics, they knew that melanin is regenerative. And it literally, if you put it inside of any body, the body will take on some of the melanated protection. And that's why you see, even in our timeline, every organ that is being donated, majority of them are coming from melanated people. You don't even have to say I'm faking it or I'm lying. Go look it up. The highest, that's why you see like the highest, all these murders and assassinations of brown, especially brown males of certain ages. That's why I told you, mamas, you need to make sure your sons are not signing the back of their licenses, donating their organs, or you aren't designating that, making sure that you make a medical agreement, which all of you should, that if something happens to your loved one, your sons, your daughters, or so on, you can make decisions on their behalf because they're just swiping people's organs. A lot of the reason why you're seeing all of these organs being taken, because the majority of organs that they're getting are from melanated people. And I've talked about this before, that the reason why they are demonizing perms, listen, y'all, this is no shade, but we know who we're talking about, right? We do know who we're talking about, right? The fact of the matter is, all of a sudden, perms and hair stuff is a bother to brown people. When did they ever care about brown women? When have you ever seen them make laws or medical malpractice based on things that affected brown women? Because remember, brown people on the planet are the majority. There's only 7% of lunars on the entire planet. That means the majority are melanated brown people. Why would they care about perms or hair braids affecting that? No, it has nothing to do with that. Why do we have so many C-sections? Because of the now they don't want the afterbirth coming through the vagina, the yoni. They want it specifically coming out because it's a better quality of stem cells. Why do you think they're doing this? Because what they found out is that when women perm their hair, it messes with the organs that they're trying to harvest. It has nothing to do with you. I told you, grass-fed organic GMO humans are required in order to harvest the best organs. You do not want your humans that you want to harvest their organs to have any sort of chemicalization. Thus comes the whole veganism, the whole pump in the veganism, the natural hair movement. It wasn't an organic thing that came from the people, it was an algorithm thing that was coming from the Greys. I love that they promote naturalism. I love that they promote for you to eat things that are more healthy, but you got to overstand and understand whenever it's coming from something outside of yourself and is being pushed, it is being pushed by governmental or dark op officials for their benefit. Now, I'm not telling you to go perm your hair and do stuff that they're telling you not to do. I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you that that is the reason why they're promoted. That's why C-sections are on the rise. They don't want the afterbirth. They don't want you going there taking your afterbirth home. That's why they give a lot of women a lot of ish when you go in there. When I was pregnant last, I threatened them. I said, my afterbirths are coming with me. I literally had to fight them nail and tooth. And even though I had a contract to keep them. Okay. So that's why I say, please, please put a like on the video because I don't know if this video, like, I think I'm going too far. I have so much more to say, but let me take a break because sometimes my mind is just all over the place. So, with that being said, they made a new contract. The first initial contract that they made with Eisenhower and Roosevelt was to abduct. They needed animal parts because they wanted to see if they can add some components of the animals. That's why you saw all the cow mutilations. Do you guys remember all the mutilations of the animals, y'all? Now, when you say Florburn, you're crazy. Let me put this disclaimer out there. I am drug free. I do absolutely zero drugs, even though many of you say I should. I do zero drugs and I do zero alcohol. I am somewhat sane. I don't know. I can't really say I'm totally sane because I'm in this hologram with y'all. And sanity is hard to keep saying in an insane world with a lot of maniacs and psychopaths and sociopaths. I mean, it's So I say I'm sane as much as I can be. Okay, I put that out there so you understand that when I give you this information, it's coming from a sober mind. And with my life inclination work, I have a lot of information on things that normally normal people wouldn't have access in their mind of knowing. Okay. So initially, they abducted only lunars. That's why you heard initially all of these abduction stories were coming from lunars. They were allowed to abduct brown people initially. And they were doing harvesting with cows. That's why you saw all the cow mutilations and sheep mutilations. Okay. Fast forward a little further. Some of these contracts were redefined. Okay. And I would say more of these contracts were redefined. You would get into like the 80s and the 90s. The 90s, I think the contract was redefined. Why? Is because then you start to see that they had to make an agreement. That's why it's important for you to understand and understand that they had to make another agreement to be able to harvest the melanated people's organs, not so much the body, but the organs. Then you start to see mass assassinations of brown people, the prison complex that brings them in there. They can control the food and everything that their prisoners do. So it was a perfect thing to get them in young enough where their organs weren't as infiltrated. And I really would say to all the moms, as well as daddies or men or women who are accustomed to the prison system, I will give you a warning that you need to have physical statements to your family saying that your organs aren't be used for anything. You have to do that. That's why I don't know if this video will stay up. Because if you don't do that, the first thing that happens if your son, daughter, or anyone transitions inside of the prison system, the first thing they're going to do, and remember, they can't harvest an organ with the body dead. There has to be a certain amount of oxygen that has to be in those organs in order to harvest it efficiently and successfully, meaning that anything that's being harvested as organs to be transplanted to somebody else or something else, there has to be oxygen already, it has to be oxidated. Those organs have to be on a live body when they're taken out. So do not believe people that say they harvest organs after death. No, they would have to keep the body alive enough. That means they've already made the decision before that person is transitioned for whatever reason. I can't judge because I don't know every situation. They would have to make a decision before the person transitions to take those organs. That contract, the new contract, only reason I know it's a new contract that was contracted with melanated people was post 80s and 90s. Why? Is because I see a heightened amount of organ harvesting details, especially in the 2000s, where they made new contracts where they were harvesting the mass amount of organs out of melanated people in the United States. Okay. And we do know in Africa, to my African diaspora, you can spread this faster than I can. In your countries, they obviously, in order for them to get access to your people, all these fake missionaries, imperialists that you let in your country from Europe, they're up on that too. That's why I can't make decisions. There's different contractual agreements and different domes, different countries that they have with these Molochians and with these other entities. I can't only say it's the Greys. I can just speak to America and the United States. I think that this is in the Americas. I think the United States is the number one place where they harvest organs of people. And also, I also want to state this, that the number one reason why I think that there was this mass exodus of mostly melanated people coming into the United States that was contracted by your pooping president is because he was getting a heightened amount of technology that he needed to protect himself and his cronies from doing what they did in 2020. So he needed to protect himself, and he needed new bodies because people in the United States were so infiltrated by drinking drugs. The whole thing with perms and hair things, they didn't have enough bodies to offer for organs. If you looked at the people coming in from other countries, these people were coming from healthier countries where they weren't being rained on with, nanotechnology, and also they had cleaner food, and they weren't doing a lot of the same things that we do with our bodies in the United States. So I personally think that with the contracting of these people coming in and the exodus of the people going out, I talked about this before. I know it's diabolical. If you have family that you know that came in, I would check on them. If you're coming from like Ecuador, El Salvador, if you're coming from Venezuela, if you're coming from Colombia, if you're coming from Africa, I would check on the family members that did that exodus to the United States, because the reason why they did this so-called bringing them in and exiting them out is because you won't be able to account for people disappearing. The fact of the matter is, you had millions of bodies, healthy melanated bodies coming from other countries, and you had healthy melanated bodies being exited and so-called being just kicked out of the country. How do you know they ever made it back home? How do you know they were ever distributed? They'll show you a couple of people being sent back into wherever by plane, but they can't account for all those millions of people. So those bodies, and if you look at the picture in El Salvador in the prison system that they created specifically for this reason, a concentration camp, if you look at the image that they had aerial wise, did you see all the bodies outside, all the blood? And it looked like you could go look at it yourself. It looked like bodies outside. Could that be a harvesting ring? This is my opinion, doesn't mean it's fact, but I personally think that was for a mass harvesting of melanated people, and they used that as a scam to get them in and be able to get people out without people accounting for that many people disappearing. That was a big. So I personally think it was for amount of test for technology. That's why you see all these rockets being put off. You see so-called Elon Musk Africanos coming in. That's all purposefully done because they probably got a lot of technology from these Molochians in exchange for bodies that they didn't have enough of healthy bodies, melanated organs. So they basically contracted to have them come in. And now you can do whatever you want with them because all the people in other countries, they think they're in the United States. They don't know that they're going to be, they don't know if they're dead, harvested. How would you know? They can't account for them. So there's no longer a physical account for those people, and they could track them because they all gave them tracker phones, so they knew where those organs would be. The biggest harvesting scheme ever. So let's go back to Philadelphia. I want to build this up to you because I know a lot of times when I share things, I need to give you backstories to things for some of you who are not from this community. Okay, so the Greys are future. A lot of the Greys, and not all, there are Greys that are wearing bodysuits. We're not talking about them. I'm specifically talking about what are the Greys, which are the Molochs, the looking Moloch beings that the Illuminati and the Masons and the Jesuits all are in cahoots with. Okay. These are the same beings, okay, that have contracted for human beings to be used for harvesting and for homogenizing. Okay. So Philadelphia has an issue right now where there's now been a wave of body parts being found throughout the city, more than normal. Because obviously this happens, obviously we know it happens everywhere, but now it's been found that there's been not only body parts are being found, but they're being put behind the vans, are being found behind food places. What is the other one? I'm trying to get the other name. Uh, I know Arby's was one, but I got to get the other names, and I'll probably put them up later. Um, Please overstand that this is something that's been happening probably for longer than we know. It's just we're in the age of Aquarius coming about, so all this information is being, basically funneled out to us consistently. So we're being made aware of these things. But Philadelphia has a problem right now because a lot of young people are being disappeared, kidnapped, and they're being harvested. And I would say, my Philadelphia family, please, you are a city I love. I have a connection to you because that is the first leg of land that my family came into when they came into the United States. So I have such a love and connection to you in so many different ways. And I really want you to be aware of what's going on, and for you personally to take some onus, and also to put your eyes on the children that you see in your neighborhoods. You know, right now I'm asking for all the moms, dads, big brothers, especially the men that are really strong. We have a lot of strong men still in Philadelphia. When you go to Philadelphia, you guys got some good specimens of brown men in Philadelphia. Big ups to the gentleman in Philadelphia is good looking. Some good looking, strong males, melanated males in Philly. Mm-mm-mm. Anyway, I digressed. I would just say that if you can, I would just pay attention to your children in your neighborhoods. Take it upon yourself to watch. If you see little people walking, just make sure if they're going to school, if you're seeing them walking to school, just keep an eye on them. Also, for your own family members, like I said, I would make sure you take directives over your living wills. Make sure everyone in your family sit together as a family, sit with them and make a living will, so that, especially with your males and your young people, saying that you have proper directives over them, and if anything happens, if they get sick. And do mind what's in the waterways. It seems like they're getting wind, or they're infiltrating the people through the water in Philadelphia, because of the it was a gentleman who talked to me about this, and I can't he just said like the water specifically in Philly is directed in a specific way. I don't remember. I don't know if you guys have it all together coming from one waterway, but it's specifically meant to go into certain people. So I would say, you know, for all my Philadelphians, this was for everybody. It's not just for Philly, but I'm concentrating on Philly right now because we have a big deal with this coming up in the algorithm that they're harvesting organs, and also they're eating the organs, they're eating the body parts. So the organs are being taken, but they're putting the rest of the body in the food. So in order to hide all these bodies, they can't just take the organs, they got to be able to hide the bodies. And they're putting it in your food. This is what I think why we're finding body parts behind a lot of food, fast food places. So for my Philadelphians, I think, you know, this is a time that many of you should get together. Again, make a directive so that your loved ones, if they're sick or something, you make a decision on their behalf. Also, make sure that your males are not having and signing the back of their card saying that they're donating the organs, because the hospitals don't care. They basically see them as soon as they see them as money. Because if you see how much on the black market a melanated spleen, heart, and lungs, and eyes is being sold for, you would understand why the hospital sees that as a cash cow when they see a young melanated person who's shot. That's why I think also their incentive for putting the guns, because we'll talk about this as well, is that many of you understand or understand. I think our guys who come from a little bit of that scene understand that there used to be times, and I know in the 90s we heard about this, in the 80s, late 80s, we heard that there would be vans in the back of alleys where they know there was a high amount of melanated people with guns and with weaponry just left open for anyone to take. Okay, because remember, weapons, guns, arms is not cheap. You know what I mean? If even if you go and get just like a Taurus, you know, like a good Glock, it's like 350. So the average melanated person living in the hood may not have access to that kind of fiat. So you have to ask yourself, where are all these guns coming from, and how are they able to afford it? It's really because it's being left open. And I don't know if they're still doing it. I need our young people to, if you know, can you I don't want you to link that to this though. I don't want, no, because I don't want it coming back to you. Um and trains too. Someone said trains. I don't want to, because I don't want it to come back to you. Let's just say this. I'm making the assumption. I don't know this for a fact, but I do know from before they used to do it, that they used to leave all these guns and stuff out in the hood so that people would come and get them. And that's why you see all of that in the neighborhood. And why it's important is that if you have a youth, a young brown youth, that's shooting another gentleman and he does not die straight on, a lot of times what happens, and also I'll say this, they contract psyop agent Smiths that look like you to go and do a shooting or a killing on the behalf of another gang member and say, oh, this was the gang, but you can't account for it because the person who has a family member shot just assumes because there was beef with another gang, it's really the opposing gang. Where meanwhile, it's a governmental agent being dressed up, just like what they did in Israel, where they'll dress up as like the Arabs and then do something and blame the Arabs or whatever that group they say and say it's them. It's like they purposefully do that. But what they'll do is they know that they can't kill the youth, so they'll shoot them so that they still have oxygen flowing, so that when they get them to the hospital and pronounce them dead, they still have enough time to harvest the organs. Okay. So I want to say this to all of our family in Philly. There's some shenanigans going on in Philly, and I personally think it's the Grays' new contract. They've been recontracted under the Trump's administration, and now they have a new harvesting contract that needs a heightened amount of melanated people. And I actually think when Trump came in, all those so-called ICE agencies that are picking up people and showing them publicly, they're not showing you the ones that they're taking, and the ones that they're taking specifically to harvesting centers where they're taken into a place that no one knows, because remember, now they're new people who are citizens. You don't know them personally because they're not from where you come from. They're coming from other countries where the other family members think that they're doing well, they're living in the US, or they're going to be sent. They can't account for them. So they're probably being taken to Guantanamo Bay, or why I believe that El Salvador was actually created. And we watched this when El Salvador said that they can hold up to 30,000 prisoners. They built this a couple of years ago. We watched it on Zoom. We watched it in like 2021 when El Salvador said, and you got to ask, what kind of contract did El Salvador sign? Because they went into crypto first. They were the first totally crypto country. So that means that they may have signed something with the Greys as well, and given some sort of technology and agreement and payment to allow for them to be the harvesting center, so people can be sent to them so they can harvest the organs properly and send it off to wherever these Greys want them to be sent to. Now, I know this is very hard to accept, and you can literally question me on this, and but I would ask for you to do your due diligence, because me giving you this information doesn't make it true. It's you actually following up and doing the legwork and verifying if some of these things have credence and relevancy to what you believe is true. And also, I would just say to everyone, anything being promoted on what's that shop? TikTok shop? Is it called TikTok? I think it's called TikTok shop. TikTok shop, right? You do know that a lot of these products have graphene, right? A lot of these products are like mascara, anything black. Graphene, this is my opinion. I'm not a chemist, but a lot of things have graphene in it. And I noticed that, this TikTok stuff, this TikTok shop is promoting certain things and has an algorithm of its own. Parents, watch what your children buy, because I remember one of my nieces was like, oh, she heard about this thing on TikTok. And I was like, TikTok? And this was a while ago. Now I know it exists, but she said they had this thing on TikTok, and I thought TikTok didn't have things like that. I thought it was more for, at the time. I know now, but at the time I thought TikTok was more for videos and stuff like that. But she said they have these things that are being promoted on TikTok, and especially to the youth. Because remember, TikTok, I want to remind you, when TikTok first came out, it was promoted to the youth. I remember when my daughters were little. Oh, thank you, Crip Walk. Crip Walk. Thank you, Crip Walk. I can't do the crip walk, but thank you. Thank you, my love. I appreciate it. Um, that's so cute. Um, I remember when my little girls were little, they were doing dances. Do you guys remember when TikTok came out? It was like little people doing dances. Is it just me, or do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember that? Let's see if you remember. Because when I remember it, my little ones were little. My eldest were little. And I remember they were doing like little dances, like the little girls and little boys were doing dances, right? And that's when TikTok was kind of promoted as a little people site. So I was always very cautious and suspicious, because whenever they promote things to little people, there's always some tie-in somehow. And now TikTok has changed to something that's more adult. A lot of whistleblowers are supposedly on there. And now there's all this promotion of, yeah, remember Kay? Kay remembers. Yeah, you guys remember. And now there's all this promotion of selling products. But y'all, you know that whenever they're promoting products, Do you know that there's an algorithm that they'll push out of a product that is carrying some sort of bioweaponry in it that they can literally push through the algorithm and influence you? A lot of people are very socially engineerable. You know this, right? Because the fact of the matter is, if you see a product and you just feel like you want to buy it because it's being promoted in a certain way, that means you're mind controllable. You need to work on that. You need to do a parasite cleanse. You need to do a mold and fungi cleanse because your mind is being controlled. Now, all these people who got the they already have a chip in them that literally pumps their feed to bring up some algorithm that they're really attracted or they'll be more susceptible to. And that'll be pumped out into their algorithm because the chip, the Bluetooth chip that has been pumped in them by their Willy Wonka governmental systems during the whole blah, 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 they're now being susceptible to getting certain kind of algorithm promotions that they'll be more it's more probable for them to purchase those things. And you do know anything that's being promoted is most likely going to make you sick, okay? Or make you more harvestable. So for brown people, them promoting for you to stop doing certain things, that's because that's because they want your organs to be more harvestable. I'm telling you, melanated people from the United States, listen to me, and those who travel to the United States and is living here, listen to me. And I wouldn't lead you wrong because it's not going to hurt you to know this. It's going to make it better because you'll stop doing things that make you more susceptible to being targeted or even being watched. Okay. If you have any melanated boys right now, if you've given birth to boys, if you I remember when my son was born, the first thing they wanted to do was take his afterbirth. And it gave me such a hard time with it. I got it, but I'm just saying when I gave birth to my son, the first thing they wanted to do is take his afterbirth. More so, okay, than my daughters. So I'm just saying to you, it's very important for you to protect your organs and anything that comes out of your body, including your teeth. You should always, if you go to the dentist, you should sign an agreement that they make that you could bring your teeth out. Used to be you could bring your teeth home. I remember when I was a little girl and I had a tooth that come out, or I went to the dentist, a tooth came out. They always let me bring my tooth home to put it underneath the pillow for the so-called tooth fairy that we know is most likely a demon, right? Okay. So how come they don't let you bring your teeth home when you go to the dentist and they have a tooth pull? They keep it. Everything in your body is a stem cell. And women, circumcision, you already know. I already talked about circumcision with boys. Why, or if you aren't Jewish, and we don't even know that that comes from them, why, if you're not Jewish, are you doing a religious rights thing? And why are you letting them touch your son's penis on birth? Why are you letting them touch your son's genitalia on birth? Who told you that that was appropriate? Who, for all you Christians who say you're godly, when did God ever say that your child's genitalia was naturally born wrong? What nature has been born incorrectly that it has to be removed on birth? You got to ask yourself that question. And I'm telling you now, in the Caribbean and in South America, we don't circumcise our sons. That's one thing that doesn't come from our culture. We keep our son's genitalia in on him. That is being promoted in the United States purposefully. And if you look and you go to Bloomingdale's, and you could tell me, y'all, you could say I'm crazy. Go and prove me wrong. When you go to Neiman Marcus or Bloomingdale's or Saks and Fifth Avenue, you know the cream, they have a cream that is foreskins. It's $400 per 0.02 ounces. $400. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Tanya. Lips comb. Thank you, my love. Oh, obrigado. Oh, thank you. Mwah. Obrigada, mamita. Obrigada. Um, but yeah, it's that is literally being done, and you don't even know why you're doing it. And I don't blame you. I just share what I know, y'all. So I know we have a lot of our young sea stars who are in, or other sea stars that could be my age that are still in childbirthing age, or still have their reproduction thing working. It's important for you to understand and understand. It should be a decision you make, and it should come from you and your prior belief system. A lot of you are indigenous to the Americas, and before imperialism and before that, even no, even after the colonizers came here, y'all weren't circumcising your children. When did that become thing? And why are boys and men being vilified for keeping their foreskins, which is healthier for them sexually, and it keeps their it keeps their sexual libido and their health of their wands longer than men who are circumcised. You can do the research on this. Why are you doing occult rituals on your children upon birth? And why are you giving a hospital, which you pay with your money? They're supposed to do things on your behalf. Let me remind everyone, when you go into the hospital, they are not to tell you what to do. You pay them. They don't pay you. You pay for a service and you tell them what you want to be done. I'm tired of hospitals taking it upon themselves, like their governmental systems, to do and tell you what to do with your child and with your body. You are paying for them. You're paying for a service. They are not to go above and beyond and do anything more than what you require or ask for them to do. You need to remind them of that. I do it all the time. I'm here to pay for a service. If you can't do the service proficiently and efficiently, then let me go and I'll find somewhere who does. And you make them sign a contract that they aren't to harvest your organs. If you're going in for surgery, you need to make sure that you're coming out with all your organs, because also this is what happens in other countries. That's why I say it's not only in the United States. People are going in for surgery thinking that they're going in surgery for one thing and finding out that their spleen or one of their kidneys has disappeared, and they won't know until 15 years later because they never even thought it could happen. So you need to make sure that before you go in surgery or before you go anywhere, you have them sign a contract saying that all the organs that are in your body aren't to be removed without your consent and your acknowledgement. Okay? These are things that I think everyone should be made aware of. And this is something that's important. When we talk about the grays, we got to talk about these are interdimensional creatures that are working on the higher end, but they got their minions and others working underneath their umbrella. And every single organ that you have has a price tag on it. And the more melanin you have, the higher the price tag. So all of our melanated, brown, black, whatever you call it, whatever you want to say, African American, whatever, African and our African diaspora, you should know this the most, because they have unrelenting, direct harvesting rights, the colonists in your countries, and any missionary and so-called health people coming in saying they bring in medication and so on, you got to be concerned. You should run away, because they got your organs on a list and they're taking it out of the country. I talked about the Chinese with all those penises, those melanated African penises. It was like, I forgot the number. It was so obscene. You couldn't even possibly think where they get all those brown penises from. And what the heck were they going to do with all those melanated penises in China? Because China has all these, you know, interesting kind of medicinal things. They use certain types of pieces of animals for certain health reasons. What were they going to do with the melanated penises? And why were they allowed to have that? And you think once they found one truck, what do you think they've been doing? So they've probably been doing it for eons, for as long as they've been allowed to be in your country. So African youth, you have more control over that, and telling some of the villagers, because many of you are very tribal, they won't know. The older people are very religious. They're still into Jesus Christ. They still believe in this Europeanized version of their religion. You've got to bleed that over into their consciousness so they're made aware of that, because usually it's the older women in those tribal bases that rear up the younger ones, and you have to make them aware that a lot of times when these Germans, these Belgians come into their country and ask for them to take their children to go shopping, they're most likely going to be sexually violated and raped, or they could be stolen into like slavery, like if they go work into another country and they take their organs. Okay, so you have to make them aware of that, sun stars and sea stars in our African diaspora. And I'm talking about Kenya, I'm talking about Nairobi, I'm talking about South Africa. Y'all are on it, and I love it. South Africa is getting up on it. Um, Definitely in Nigeria, because Nigeria is such a big country. Nigerians are really, really smart. They have a lot of technology. I think that the youth of Nigeria, if we put that out, that'll definitely catch some wind. Definitely Ghana, you need to know that. Uh, 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 I can never say the English. Cote d'Ivoire, Cote d'Ivoire. It's if I only known that country in French my whole life, so I have to think about the English for it. Cote d'Ivoire, Cote d'Ivoire. What's Cote d'Ivoire again? Ivory Coast. It came to me. Ivory Coast. The Ivory Coast. Liberia, Liberia has a big issue with harvesting of organs. They're kidnapping a lot of men doing that because of the whole thing with Gaddafi. Um, Definitely in Ethiopia and Eritrea. I just say this because they come from the bloodline of the actually Cometians, the Cometics. I actually think they do something different with them, and I would really caution. I think there's some caution there. I have to talk to one of our sea stars is Ethiopian. I have to talk to her and see if they're aware. But there's so many assassinations happening in Yemen and over in Sudan. Sudan has a very ancient bloodline too. That East African network over there, Sudan, South Sudan, North Sudan, Yemen, Ethiopia, Eritrea. Y'all got to be very careful because you come from that bloodline of ancient Kemet. And I don't know because I can't speak on it. So I would ask your information on it. If you are seeing things happening with people's bodies being taken, are they taking organs out? Like you would more so know that. I don't have enough information on that to speak on it. And I think I would really be open if you hear, if you're able to share the information happening over there so that we could share with the other family. And really, we ask our African diaspora because you're such a big continent, it would be really great. And again, with the gentleman over there, Ibrahim, um, Traore, 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 my opinion is going to be really unpopular because I just been around the block a long time and I see what these bastards do. And I say this, and I want to say it to you so that you put caution with your heart, because I think they're inflating Traore so high and so beautifully, and I think he deserves it. But you got to remember, they have access to technology that are beyond comprehension. And I think she already knows this, but I would say this, be careful putting anyone high on a pedestal because if something happens to him, it will cause a whirlwind of heartache. And they usually raise someone up, they allow for them to be inflated across the diaspora and further so that if that they can build it up so high so that when they destroy it and they hurt it and they kill it, that it will destroy any hope that you have. So I say this, I love the concept of what he's doing or what he's perceivably doing. I don't know him and I just hear about him, but I also know from being on the block that anytime they inflate someone that high, it's usually so they can destroy them and hurt your heart. And especially at this time when we're going through ascension, we're going towards reset, it would be deafening, the heartache of deafening if something happens to him. So I always say this, look at him, admire him, you could do that, but please refrain from putting your heart in that because he's being propped up so much, and especially by our beautiful African diaspora, that it makes me think that they're going to do something to make you break your hearts. So I just say this to pull your heart out of it, and you can have admiration for a man, but remember he's a human man. Okay, so just I put that there. It's so unpopular, but I have to give you the warning because I've seen it. They do that all the time. They inflate people just to deflate them in front of you, and it's to break your heart. It's to break your spirit, and you can't allow them to do it. You can't ever put so much emphasis on one being, not me, not anybody. You can admire people, you can look from a distance, you can support their journey of whatever they do, but refrain from putting your heart in them because that's how they get our power. Okay, that's how they energetically destroy us by doing that, and they purposefully do that. Okay, so all I have to say, I think that's all I have to say today. I'm gonna really end this conversation. I want to thank everybody for coming. The Grays are recontracted. I think Trump has made a new contract with the Grays, and that is to harvest all of those immigrants that came in here. They're most likely got payment with technology. That's why you're seeing Elon Musk and all these people using rockets to go up. They probably got new stuff and they're playing with their new toys, their new technological toys. Be careful with, make sure everyone in here has code words for themselves as AI is faking people's voices. So I would say also for the family who talks to their family, makes new directives. I would also say for everyone, make code words. Do not talk near your phone, write it on paper, hide it, and tell your family a code word that if something happens to them, they only know. It's one code word for the family. and you change it every 6 months or every 3 months as necessary. But do not talk near the phone. Don't say it out loud. Don't have them say it out loud. So if someone calls with their voice on the phone saying something's happening, that code word should be a word that they use. If they don't use that word, that's not the person. You're going to have to start doing that because we have AI calling people and doing this right now. And they just did it with governmental officials. So we have to protect ourselves. You know, they got their own way of protecting themselves. I could just put that information out to protect yourself. So thank you again for coming in. Again, the Grays are harvesting organs. Philadelphia, heads up, protect your babies, your men, your people over there. Be mindful. Be mindful what you eat. You got Philly cheesesteaks out there. You can't verify a steak because you know steak over there is that flat stuff. They could be putting in your food system. That also, if you eat your own human meat, if you eat human flesh, it lowers your frequency and it makes you dirty to extraterrestrials that are here right now. They see your field as dirty if you're consuming human flesh. So be mindful with the Philly cheesesteaks that it's really steak. And you can't verify that. I would, go old school like your grandparents used to do. Go to butchers, make sure it's verifiable meat, and go do it yourself. But other than eating out in Philadelphia, I would be concerned because, as we know, once it comes out in an algorithm, who's to say that this hasn't been happening a while and it's just coming out right now? Okay. Love you, Philly. I wish you well. Wish you well to all our family all over the world. Okay. And I wish you well. So we'll have another conversation. Zombies, I'll see you tonight. I'll be ready, snacks and everything. We're going to be on Zoom at least for 3 days. So I'll see my zombies tonight. I wish everybody well. And I hope this information was helpful. And please put a like on the video if you feel like it's a relative conversation. Okay. So I wish everybody well and have a great weekend. Uh, Weekend. And I do mean weekend. Peace.